do this.
Let's call our meeting to order.
Chris?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
All 7 are present.
Before you have an agenda. I need an approval and adoption of the agenda, please.
Second.
Motion by Caitlin May, seconded by Lisa Elrod to approve and adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? 7 yes.
All right, next let's go over our board norms for January. We will be guided by the mission statement, which focuses on professional development, which enhances success for all students, and we will use humor as appropriate to help us work better together. It's always an important one. Next up, we have Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Up next, we have board recognition, and I know we at least have just one?
Just one.
Just one tonight.
Rather than try to run all over there behind your back, I'm just going to stand here. Okay. So, bear with me. This one's a little lengthy, but it's very worthy of what has been put into this recognition, and very well deserved. So just bear with me for a few minutes as I read this to you. It says, "This letter is to recognize Jennifer Horsfield, aka Jenny. Mrs. Horsfield is the elementary building counselor. As her building administrator, I'd like to bring to light a gratitude and appreciation that we have for her hard work and dedication to children. Her ability to meet the whole child is very admirable. Her guidance and assistance are not limited to elementary students, but rather district as a whole. She goes above and beyond to help where needed and make a lasting impact. Mrs. Horsfield is a staple to not only the school district, but Crawford County community. She takes lead on projects when she already has a plate full. That's what we do, don't we? She is the epitome of see a need, fill a need. That is for sure. Mrs. Horsfield has filled in to help with faculty members have been on leave or been obligated to other duties. She's good-hearted, personable, and provides grace to others when needed. Cuba Elementary students truly admire Mrs. Horsfield and the way she makes them feel. She includes everyone regardless of their abilities or differences. She serves as a safeguard to children, which ultimately affects their overall success in school. Beyond her valuable guidance, Mrs. Horsfield is a great listener and looks at the big picture when providing her services to our crew and their families. She takes the time to gather valuable information and puts forth the effort to see things through. Mrs. Horsfield recently graduated from Truman State University with a master's degree in counseling. Proof that the sky's the limit for this woman. Her sense of humor and down-to-earth engagement paired with her motherly instincts is what makes her a perfect fit for our building. We congratulate her on her advanced degree. We love, respect, and appreciate Mrs. Horsfield in all her glory. She is truly exceptional beyond comparison. We thank her and recognize her tonight for her hard work and dedication to the Crawford County R2 School District. Yes, had a girl. Uh-oh.
Oh, we did fall.
You want it back open?
Yeah.
Sorry, we couldn't catch it at the time. You're right.
There we go.
All right, next up we have citizen participation. There was a sign-in sheet over on this little cabinet whenever you walked in, and there's not been anybody sign up tonight for citizen participation, so let's move into consent agenda items. There's a few items under consent agenda. If anybody has a specific question, you can ask it, you can pull an item. And if
Motion by Tammy Palmer, seconded by Roger Bridgman to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? 7 yes.
Thank you. Next up, we have financial statement and the January bills. Again, if anybody has a question.
I'll make the motion to accept.
Thank you. A second.
Motion by Roger Bridgman, seconded by Lisa Elrod to approve the financial statement and action on the January bills as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Opposed?
Abstain.
6 yes, 1 abstain.
Next up, we do have our administrative reports. Let's start with board and committee reports. Sherry, you have anything to share?
One
this
thing I
month?
have is I'm going to MSBA tomorrow on Saturday.
All right, then let's move into building principal reports. Let's start in the high school.
We, I think, have tracked down all our second semester kids, the ones returning from homeschool or from virtual. Got off to a good start this week. And of course, we did homecoming. Abby, I'm sure, has plenty of that in her report, but if you weren't there, it was a tearjerker. It wasn't supposed to be, but it was very heartfelt, and super proud of those kids for just being awesome like they are. But everybody looked fabulous, and the decorations were fabulous. And if you hadn't seen it, Bailey Godad and Landon Cardell was our royalty, so it was very nice. It was very, very fun to be there.
Okay. Let's move into the middle school.
Well, I was gonna say we are back, but I don't know if everybody's glad to be back or not, but I am. Nice to get second semester started, get everybody settled in and kind of back into a routine, and hopefully, knock on wood, it stays that way and we can get into springtime. No, we ended first semester good and looking forward to a good second semester as well.
Thank you. And elementary.
As both a educator and parent, I am very happy to that as well. So my children are losing it at home. We were happy to have kids back in the building. There's something about elementary kids needing to have eyes on them. So getting them back in the building after that amount of time was nice. I feel like outside of our board report, I feel like we are filling the calendar as fast as we can between now and the end of the year. We've scheduled our school carnival. We've got a Dr. Seuss title night coming up, kindergarten screening, kindergarten expo, parent-teacher conferences. It's just like boom, boom, boom. So it's nice to check those things off the list and get a date on the calendar so we can communicate that to families. So all good things.
The videos are very entertaining, by the way.
Yes. Oh, thanks. All of them are.
Your acting career must be going somewhere, I would say, you guys.
Yeah. Well, I thought TikTok was going to be banned, so I had to do something.
I was watching. I hadn't thought that's where we were headed.
All right. Let's move into special ed.
I'm just glad to be live.
Yes.
Happy.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know we're kind of like in that lull of coming back from Christmas, but yet we had an extra 2 weeks almost of break, and so it's just kind of a weird time.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's not like nothing's happening, but not a ton to report.
I'm glad to see in middle school there's a vaping presentation coming about.
Middle school.
And
Seventh and
high
eighth
school.
grade for us,
Yeah,
and then
seventh
high
grade.
school.
Okay,
12.
that's fantastic. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
kids need to be, is it? I think kids need to be enlightened with that because it's just something
Absolutely.
that's crazy right now. And I'm glad to see that.
That's right. All right, Abby, what do you have for us for your student rep report?
Also going to talk about court warming. I'm really glad we still got to do it. All of our stuff got used, almost all of it anyway. I am really happy for Landon. He actually did not know if he was going to come. He was really nervous about it, so I'm really glad that he got
He
to
was
make
pushing
it.
in. He wasn't coming. He was like, I'm not going.
Well,
Like, you have to go.
He told me when he got on the RTI bus, because maybe I peeked at the results, 'cause as they were coming in, they weren't done voting, and I'm like, so I asked Landon, I said, Landon, you ready for homecoming? You ready to come tonight? I'm not coming. And I'm like,
Wait,
oh my gosh, she's so
hard.
So I called Shannon and Adam and said, "Can you please make sure he comes and that he dresses appropriately." Oh, we didn't even know he was doing it. And he told me, he said, well, Cameron told me to do it. So it was very cool to see Cameron, like, with him, and at the dance you saw him, like, big brother, or little brother of the year right there.
He was so excited. He was jumping when he won. He was
Yes.
just- it was definitely a tearjerker.
Yeah.
Happy tears.
Yes.
I'm just really glad we got to do it still, even after our
You guys
really
did great.
extended break.
You did great.
All right, thank you. Let's move into assistant superintendent report.
Sure, I don't have anything to add, but I just want to thank the bus drivers for getting
Yes.
everyone to school safely on Friday and this week. While most of the roads are better, there are still some patchy spots out there. We've had to modify some routes, and I want to thank Rachel Smith also, because she had to call several parents and let them know modified pickup spots and things like that. But we made it work and got everybody here safely, and it's been a good week.
You actually have in 2 sentences in your report, but they're more geared for the needs assessment. And so I was going to highlight those 2 sentences right now, but I think I'm gonna wait until the needs report, because these 2 sentences are just so, they're powerful and they're
Yes.
just so important for our district that
Agreed.
I think we need to highlight these.
Okay.
But let's get into that on
All
your
right,
needs
all right,
assessment.
put it in, okay.
Superintendent report.
So I'd just like to reiterate a big thank you to our transportation department for getting our students to and school and back home safely. And then also our maintenance and custodial crews did a really good job. They were out getting the ice off the parking lots and sidewalks and stuff cleaned up. So I'm glad to have that. The only other thing I'd like to add is I'll be meeting with our state representative, John Hukin, tomorrow with some other superintendents just to discuss public education, and always work well with our representatives and senators. So looking forward to that.
All right, let's move into unfinished business. First up, we have the 24-25 budget update.
Yes, so our budget here, current expenditures year to date are at 105% in comparison to our revenues received, which are at 72%. So don't let the 105 be concerning. We just received $3.2 million in our payment in January. So thank you to everybody who paid your real estate property tax. So we got that, but also just to remind, we did adopt a deficit spending budget this year, so we should be just a little bit over that 100, but we may not be as well, because that's assuming we spend every dollar we budgeted, and historically we don't. So we're in a good place and right on track where we had projected for the 24-25 budget, and I'll be starting on the 25-26 budget. Well, I've already kind of started today working on that, but it's already in the works.
Yeah, that number looks a little scary to be
It
honest.
does.
It does, but if it's
Yes.
predicted,
Yes.
it's not as scary.
All right, next up, we have to approve the services from Navigate Building Solutions. So last month, we had Corey Mueller come in and he gave us a presentation. We wanted to kind of leave that off, of the agenda, give everybody a month to mull that over, see if that's a service that we want to move forward with our district. And now it's before you to approve it or not approve it. Or ask more questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
On this information page, looking at everything that they're wanting to do,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is a sore subject or not, are we still looking at doing something about more restrooms in the middle school?
Yes, that should be on there.
Did I miss that? I probably did then. It says middle school HVAC in the gym, hallways, and cafeteria, unless I just missed it somewhere else.
Renovate restrooms maybe?
Oh, yes.
But so it's gonna fall under that?
Yes, So
Okay.
I did talk to the Capital Projects Task Force Committee, as well as Corey Bepson, with the
Okay.
list there.
I
So
just
that's
wanted to
what that
make
is.
sure.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So that's not only renovating, but also look at the additional in the
Okay.
middle school as well. So. And I will say this list isn't all inclusive, so if there's a few things here or there, if they're not major, they'll still fall under this task order.
I do like the way that he presented, and I love that we're not tied to certain construction companies or vendors or whatnot. We can propose some of these things locally, so.
Yeah, you said that they would use.
Almost like they
Yeah.
encourage
would
that.
encourage the
Yes.
local people to do the business.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we move forward with Navigate for capital improvement projects.
Motion by Roger Bridgman, seconded by Caitlin Mace, to approve utilizing pre-construction services from Navigate Building Solutions as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Opposed? 7 yes.
All right, next up, we have the MC policies. You had those in your packet last month. I do want to draw everybody's attention to policy 1422. I had a few concerns with that particular policy. It is an optional policy. And if you read through it, it talks about like pamphlets, handouts, things like that. It also talks about sponsorships. And some of my concerns with that are, like we currently go out and we have basketball team solicit sponsorships. There's like signs in the gym or on the baseball fields or whatever. And so I feel like if we were to accept this policy, we would have to change a lot of our practices to make that applicable.
I agree.
The same thing with like handouts for like Boy Scouts or whatever that we leave like in office, on the office countertops so people can just grab those at will. So I have concerns about that with it being an optional policy. I don't know that I feel comfortable approving it, but obviously that's my feeling, so I just wanted to put that out there to everybody.
I felt the same way because in looking at that, it looks to me as if like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and all those it would change a lot of things to where they wouldn't have access to be able to do things or the fundraising or sponsorships like the banners.
I think
that
when
we've
it comes to like
gotten.
your sponsorships, I think you
Yeah.
have a lot of additional work put on like your AD, especially if you have kids going out and getting sponsorships. I mean, you're not gonna give a contract to a child and have them get their business to sign that, so, anyway.
Is there really an instance where we have an issue with this currently?
We do not, so if this is not adopted, we're still
Usually,
in
yeah.
compliance with policy, federal and state laws.
And we still continue what we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our procedures right now.
Sure.
So I would say that's my only issue with
That's
all
the
of
only
these
one I had
policies that are in
I was
here.
concerned with not the kids not having.
Can pull that one? Yeah. I mean, I will make that motion if someone else has any questions about any of the other policies to accept all other policies as wrote, except for that one.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Would you like
Me.
to
Three
say
votes.
excluding policy or just pull it from?
Probably
What was the
excluded
question?
Okay.
since it's listed already in our package.
Oh, okay. I know what you said.
Okay. Motion by Caitlin Mace, seconded by Roger Bridgman, to approve and adopt policies 4551, 4560, 6325, and regulations 2310 and 6325, excluding policy 1422 as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? 7 yes.
Okay. Computer is back to normal. Let's move into new business. Next up, we have to approve our 25-26 school calendar. I can tell you calendar committee met once or
In
twice.
December.
I don't know, something like that. The calendar is very similar to this current school year calendar. There's 5 snow days built in. There are 3 makeup days set if we were to use 8 days, or if we were to miss 8 days of school. So again, just very similar to this current year. So, if there's any questions, let's answer them, and if not, let's approve the calendar.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Sherry Schutte, seconded by Lisa Elrod, that the 2025-2026 proposed calendar be approved as presented. All those in favor?
Yes.
yes,
Opposed? 7 yes.
All right, next up, we have our needs assessment review. And Myra, would you like to start on that?
Absolutely. So we sent out our needs assessment survey in November, and that survey went out to students grades 3 and up, then our parents and guardians, our classified staff, and our certified staff. So we're just going to kind of do a quick overview of the results from that needs assessment. Starting with the students, we had 89% participation in grades 3 through 4, 94% in the middle school, and then 59% in the high school. It was a Likert scale, the same that we've used in the years previous, where 1 was strongly disagree and 5 was strongly agree. The results from these surveys are being used for building and district level growth and improvement. So just some quick highlights from the student survey. Some strengths on the student side, student efficacy, or their confidence in their abilities. They reported having a high confidence in their ability to learn. And then also their plans and goals for the future. And so that's very positive, especially in a age where loneliness and hopelessness and things like that are true epidemics among our youth. So I was very pleased with those results. There was also positive reinforcement that teachers are having clear expectations for the students and providing them encouragement when they need encouragement. Another big one was safety. The students overwhelmingly reported that they feel safe and that they know what to do in case of an emergency, but also they know who to go to and how to report an emergency or a bullying situation and things like that. So that was definitely a positive to see there. On the growth areas from the students survey, one thing that I thought was interesting, because they marked teacher expectations and getting encouragement for teachers very high, but in the area of teachers recognizing when they're having difficulty learning something was lower. And I think part of that is maybe a communication piece. You know, those of you that are teachers in the room can't read everyone's mind, but maybe an awareness there of when a student is struggling, but they're not verbalizing that to you. Another thing that stood out as a growth area was that, especially in the older grade levels, the students feel like they don't have a voice in their education, and that their opinions don't matter, and a general lack of respect and perceived lack of respect from adults. So that's definitely a growth area. One of the questions on safety asks, if you don't feel safe, why don't you feel safe, or where do you not feel safe? And so the students that did report that they did not feel safe, their concerns were mainly regarding online threats and false threats.
Yep.
And that makes a lot of sense, because right around the time we took this survey is when we had the mass social media false threats that were going around the entire area, not just our district. So that was the student survey. Parent surveys, we had 209 total parent surveys completed this year. That was up from 163 last year, so that's the most that we've had. We did split it out by building, so that the building administrators would have a better idea of what their parents were saying about their building. And parents could take it multiple times. Like if you had a student who is in, you know, kindergarten and another one who's in high school, you could take both surveys so that you could comment on each building. So I don't know how many of those are the same, you know, parent, because we didn't collect identifying information there. And again, these results are being used for district and building growth. Some highlights from the parent survey: safety again. They reported that their child feels safe at school. They felt that the school environment was welcoming and they felt welcome when they come into the school, so that was very positive. Technology support was another area that got positive results. That we have school buildings that promote learning and a culture that promotes learning. Communication, whether that be at the building level or from their students' teachers, that was a positive as well. And then our building conditions and our facility conditions, that was marked high. Some growth areas, some perceived inconsistencies in discipline, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when we talk about our steps that we're taking moving forward. Parents, again, just like students, felt like their students might not have a voice. This was especially in the higher grade levels, that their students needed more involvement there. Diversity of program offerings. There were several comments on the parent survey about coding classes and STEM classes, gifted education, and preschool. And preschool has been on our needs assessment as a growth area for the last 3 years. Just a slight plug for my next proposal on the agenda.
Smooth.
Thanks.
Smooth.
The next one was our classified staff. We did this a little differently last year because we really struggled with participation. So this year we sent it out digitally. We offered, help with the computer. You can come into central office. Rachel will help you. But I also made just paper copies and gave them to transportation, maintenance, and custodial. And so most of our classified staff, they did it on a paper copy, and then we just did data entry and entered it into the form. So we did get much more participation this year with our classified staff. Some strengths from that survey: they feel very supported by their direct supervisors. Confidence in safety and implementing safety procedures, that was up from last year for our classified staff. Teamwork within the departments, feeling like they are part of a family, a positive work environment, that was a big positive for our classified staff. And then the area where it asks about is the mission and vision of the district clear, and the expectations clear, that was a positive as well. A couple of growth areas from that survey: recognition. That was an area where the classified staff, they felt that maybe they're not getting the same level of recognition as our certified employees. And so that's definitely something that we want to work on. We want everyone to feel included and valued. Inconsistent communication, not necessarily by their direct supervisor, but some of the comments were kind of like, I don't know what's going on in the building, things like that. So just making sure that with our classified staff, email isn't our primary form of communication, and that's something I've started doing with like the wellness committee and things like that, is printing everything off and putting it in the supervisors' mailboxes to pass out. Just because, when you're working constantly with your hands, you're not on your phone all day, you're not checking that email or driving a bus or doing those things. So in terms of student discipline, the comments that were made about student discipline were primarily on the bus. There was not concerns with how the principals were handling discipline. I think it was concerns with student behavior on the bus. And then specific facilities needs were mentioned, including needing additional restroom facilities at the bus barn. It's mentioned multiple times. Certified staff participation. I was extremely happy with this, the results from this. The last 3 years we have been working diligently. I know the board, the admin team, everyone, to help improve morale and climate and culture around the entire district. But we know we had some negative results from our certified staff in particular. So overall, I was very pleased with these responses on this survey. Overwhelmingly, our certified staff reported that they are feeling supported, valued, a strong sense of belonging. You saw in my board report the quote from the new teacher that, you know, she felt like she belonged from day one. Never did she feel like she didn't belong. And that's what we want. We want everyone to feel like they're part of our family here. So another highlight from the staff survey was student recognition. We are seeing a lot more of that with the positive office referrals, board recognitions, the art that's displayed outside the boardroom, those types of things, the Facebook posts. So I think that we're getting more of a more well-rounded view of the things that are happening and the things our students are being recognized for. Again, safety was an area that the staff felt that they feel safe and they're comfortable implementing safety procedures. And so the fact that safety was a positive across all of the surveys, I think that's a big deal. And then teacher efficacy, their confidence in their own teaching abilities. That was one thing that scared me a little bit last year, is that was an area that was low, and we want our teachers to be confident in their abilities, and that was significantly higher this year, and so I was very pleased with that. Some of our growth areas that were identified by certified staff, desire for more support staff, so paraprofessionals and that type of thing. And then just general respect, respect students to student, student to teacher, and then teacher to student. That was actually identified by teachers as well. And I think that that directly correlates to the parents and the students saying they feel like they didn't have a voice. And so that's something that we definitely want to work towards, bridging that gap there. And then another area that our certified staff highlighted was family engagement. And they felt like maybe there was not the higher level of engagement with families being involved with the school that they would like to see. Administration, some of the prompts on the surveys were directed towards administration. There was a lot of positive feedback on direct supervisors providing clear job expectations, feeling valued and supported by central office, by the board, by their building administration, and then staff appreciation for administrator response to discipline. That one was also very positive, which in the past it hasn't necessarily been as high. One area of feedback, more time for planning and prep on PD days, on those PD Mondays, was a request from the faculty. So moving forward, you know me, I'm a solution-oriented gal. So we have already been working on some of these areas. The building principals work with their building leadership teams. And then we also have our district leadership team, and we've been talking about some of these growth areas. So we definitely want to focus on cross-department district collaboration to make sure that all staff feel informed and included. And so working on that kind of that recognition piece, but also the communication piece as well. Implement initiatives to build stronger relationships and trust across all levels, and that goes from the student to student level, student to teacher, teacher to student. And I think part of that is looking at some trauma-informed practices, but also just challenging, you know, how do we respond to those challenging interpersonal dynamics? Because, you know, teaching is a hard job. It's a stressful job. And, you know, sometimes, I have a teenager, so I can say this, sometimes teenagers are a little mouthy. You know, and it's easy to react in an emotional way. And so you might not mean to be as short as you were, or sound as gruff as it came out. And so I think part of that is just working with our staff on communicating and modeling the communication that we want to see, so that our students do feel that even though maybe you're getting on to me, you're doing it in a way that I feel like you're trying to grow me, not beat me down, you know, not literally, but yes, with words.
We got it.
Okay. The next one, review and refine student behavior policies. to ensure consistency. This is something we've been looking at with PBIS in each building. Middle school has done it for years. High school and elementary are starting to adopt more of those practices. We've discussed at the CSIP meeting most recently a unified character education matrix. So we have, similar expectations in each building, so it just moves with the kids and they understand that similar vocabulary. But one thing that I think that just needs to be communicated more clearly is consistency and discipline doesn't look like the same discipline in each building. Because, you might have a kindergarten student who pushes and hits a peer. Well, their consequences are going to look much different than a junior in high school who pushes and hits a peer. There's a whole different developmental process that happens there. And so those consequences are never going to be equal, but they can be consistent through the buildings. And so part of that I do think is communication. And we talked about having a discipline handbook where all 3 buildings' discipline policies were in the same handbook. And that's something the administrative team is going to look at this next semester. So, and then the last one on there, just taking steps to diversify our course offerings. We'll talk about our preschool tonight, dual credit offerings. Something that the counselors and Mrs. Meese at the high school are doing is sending out surveys to the students. What classes do you want to see offered? And I think it's just important to keep revisiting that every year to make sure that we're staying relevant and that we are teaching things that are going to help our students develop those 21st century skills they need so that they can be successful when they enter the workforce. So that's definitely our growth areas and what we want to look at moving forward. I want to end on some strengths though. I think that staff satisfaction overall, that feeling supported and valued. I think that is a huge positive and a strength, a great step in the right direction. Safety, again, I talked about that earlier, that having positive results in every single category, especially in this day and age and the different things that we read about and see in the news. I think it's very important that our students, parents, community, faculty, staff, that everyone feels safe. Student confidence in achievement, that's also a huge strength. And just that clear mission and vision alignment, having everyone on the same page from the board all the way through makes such a huge difference in the climate and culture of our district. So that's all I have for you guys on the needs assessment. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'm going to throw out some Tammy Palmer 2 cents here.
All right.
As I was going through this, on the family involvement as a growth area, just a thought, have we thought any more into, I know we've had one in the past, like a PTA or a PTO program, that might bring families into, to bridge that gap. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that popped into my head as I was going through your thing. And then on, when you were just talking about behavior policies and things.
Yes.
Again, you guys probably hate hearing, in union we do this, but I found out it's really powerful that we have Monday video announcements, and the assistant principal always gets on and they do this video announcement, and it always is it's all PBIS. And it's reiterating the 4 basic, we call it ROAR, but it is so ingrained into our kids because every Monday they hear it, and it comes from the assistant principal, so they feel like, oh, the principal's telling me this. It's not coming from a committee or another teacher in the building, it's coming from somebody important. Not that the teachers aren't, but you know what I mean. It's a respect thing. So I found it's really beneficial to have that Monday morning announcements where they continue to go over, and so like the celebrations that happen on Facebook, also the kids get to see those celebrations. So the kids that get positive behaviors referrals to the office, they get their picture taken, and then the kids get to see their friends and celebrate their friends with it. So it's something that I feel like our whole entire building, pre-K through 5 gets to see this. So all of the expectations throughout the whole building are the same, and it comes from a place of authority. So just again, 2 cents worth, something to think about. It's a little bit extra maybe on the assistant principal to have to do, but again, it's a place of authority. So just, whether you do it or not, just throwing that out there.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Always good to share ideas.
Yeah,
So
share
I
ideas.
said that I wanted to highlight something,
Yes,
and
for sure.
you've already highlighted it, you've already hit it in your needs assessment, but I just want to say this statement out loud.
Absolutely.
So everybody in the audience can hear it. So your report, back on your assistant superintendent report, says, the needs assessment results were overwhelmingly positive. Faculty and staff results show improvement to district climate and culture, including that they feel valued, supported, and welcomed. And then you went in and you already said about, you know, the one staff member saying that she had never, or he had never felt like they didn't belong here from day one. That, that is huge, and I think that those couple of sentences right there, I don't know if they need to be plastered out literally to our entire community.
Get a banner, we have.
Yeah,
some
put it out on the
your
message
vehicles.
board or whatever. But I think that shows, that just shows everybody working together, literally from this boardroom all the way down through every single employee here. And just good job to everybody that contributes to that, to making people feel welcome, to making people want to come to work here and do their job. You know, a lot of things have gone into that, salary schedules and different programs, but just shifting your mindset is so huge and so monumental to that. So, anyway, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, any other questions or comments for needs assessment?
I'm just thankful that we had a good turnout for you to do all this work and get us all this information. It's great that the faculty took
Those good
their,
responses.
yeah, took their time.
And
to do
more
it.
responses. I was
Yes.
happy to see that there were more people that.
Yeah.
Numbers are way higher.
Yeah.
And there's been a shift. Some things that were growth areas for us in the past are now,
Move to the other.
they've moved to the other side, their strengths.
Yep.
That's positive. All right, let's move into consideration of pre-K for the 25-26 school year, and we have another little presentation.
Yeah, so this was just a little flyer. So I just have some information I wanted to share with you from the preschool committee. So we developed a preschool committee this year, Mrs. Green and myself, and several of our teachers, Mrs. Feeser, Mrs. Gibson, Mrs. Walker, Mrs. Stahl, and then Tiffany Lorenz, who's our new parents as teachers. She is part of the committee as well. And then Melinda Oskentowski, who is the principal at Holy Cross. She was instrumental in opening their preschool, and so she is on our committee as well. And so just starting out, you know, some things I wanted to share with you about why it is just so important that we consider starting our own preschool. We know that it improves school readiness, literacy, and social development. Those things are just come natural. But when we think about kindergarten readiness, we're looking at more than just the, you know, do we recognize, you know, letters or numbers or things like that. It's social, emotional development. It's can I listen? Can I share? Can I hold a pencil? Do I know my first and last name? Can I use the restroom? All of those things are skills that are developed in preschool and make it that much better for our kindergarten teachers if the students have those experiences. We know that improving birth to pre-K options, that's been a growth area for our district for several years. We made big strides with parents as teachers this year. Ms. Lorenz is doing a fabulous job with growing the program, and we've kind of revamped how that looks a lot. She's, you know, working with families and doing her play groups and things like that. So that area has definitely gotten stronger, and we want to continue to build off of that. We know these early interventions are going to lead to long-term successes for these students. There's also the potential for relieving the burden of childcare for families of our students that are enrolled in the preschool. You'll see it in our program details. We are not looking at a tuition-based preschool. We're not looking at half day. We're looking at whole day, and that's a huge help to our families. The last bullet point on there is something that I really want to highlight, because if you read that statement, it's scary, guys. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, our kindergarten students, only 16 to 24% of them are entering kindergarten ready. So that's less than a quarter of our kindergarten students are kindergarten ready. And so that means from that very first day of kindergarten, our teachers are teaching preschool, right? They are teaching those skills that should have been developed in preschool, plus trying to get all the kindergarten skills in there. And then we're going into first grade, and we're not quite where we need to be for first grade because we had to start with preschool and kindergarten. And I just think that's a scary statistic there, that we have the ability to remedy with implementing our own preschool program. So what the committee is looking at is starting with one full day classroom. We could have up to 10 students with one teacher, or up to 20 students with a teacher and a para. So anything over 10 would require a para. So even if we only had 13, we would have to have a teacher and a para in that preschool classroom. We would be looking to start this in August for the 25-26 school year. We would focus on students the age right before kindergarten, so 4 and 5. We would not open the preschool to 3-year-olds because that affects transportation and the transportation laws. So we would follow the current school calendar, and we would follow the elementary school schedule. So preschool would be part of the elementary school program. And then we would utilize our current transportation, so our current bus routes. We would not have any special kind of preschool bus route. Looking at funding, Mrs. Green, Dr. Davidson and I, we had a meeting with several different departments within DESE, the Office of Early Childhood, federal programs, the finance office. We essentially just had a brainstorming meeting, what's going to be our best option to fund this. Coming out of that meeting, Title I is not an option for us. Our Title I funds are already stretched as far as they can go, and they're primarily going to support salaries for our Title programs. In speaking with them, the best bet for right now is the Missouri Quality Pre-Kindergarten Grant Program. And that lady spits out MOQPK like it's a second language, and I'm like, wait, can you say that again? But we currently qualify for up to $6,750 per student. They actually wanted us to start this in February, and we said, we're not there yet. We're trying. And so the nice thing about that grant, that can be used for equipment, it can be used for supplies, but it can also be used for salaries. It can be used for the teacher and the para salary, and for curriculum. So applications for next year actually don't open until May, which is kind of frustrating. That's late, it feels very late, but they're not only working with public schools, so that's the guidelines are a little different there. Also, in speaking to Dr. Davidson, if for some reason come May we didn't qualify for the grant or the grant went away, we do currently have local funds available that could support the preschool classroom. We're estimating between $80,000 and $90,000 a school year for one teacher and one para. And obviously that's going to be based on their level of experience and where they fall in the salary schedule and things like that. But this is something that I know that our early childhood, our elementary are very passionate about. This is something we've been trying to do for years, and it feels like all of the pieces are just kind of falling into place. And so we just ask that you would consider that for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you.
How are they going to decide which students? Are they going to go through a
So that's something that
testing
the
procedure?
committee is working on, what that's going to look like. With that MOQPK grant, you have to have some students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, but it doesn't have to be as high a percentage as a title program.
Okay.
So need is definitely going to be something that's looked at. We also discussed in our committee meeting, staff, the children of staff, having the opportunity as well. So that's all the details, like our handbook and what that process is going, the screening process and things like that. That's all still in development.
Okay. And then one other question.
Sure.
On your statement of only 16 to 24% of kindergarten students are ready, where does that information come from? What did you guys do to figure that out?
I got that from the elementary principals last year. So
Okay.
where they gathered that information, because we had already started working on putting this together
Okay.
Last spring. So go ahead, Dr.
Yeah, I can
Pearson.
answer it. It's from the kindergarten readiness screener.
Okay.
At the beginning of
actual
the year.
screening.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where that comes, and
Okay.
they do a great job because at the end of the year, there are several ready for first grade. So
Yes, yes.
It's almost
Okay,
like
I
a
was
year,
just curious.
year and a half of gains in 1 year in kindergarten. So.
Gotcha.
And to go back to only 16 to 24% of kids are kindergarten ready, and teachers have to start the year off with basically teaching preschool traits. That is wearing on your teachers. That is a great way to burn them out fast and have staff turnover. If it's, that's just a lot to take on whenever you think that you're coming to work to try to do kindergarten things, but we're, back here doing preschool things, and maybe even less than preschool things. That's a bad thing for staff.
Dr. Davidson, would this go into our, is it APR? Is that what I'm trying,
Oh,
attendance? ADA, yeah, thank
so
you.
we will, that's something that changed with preschool, they will count that as ADA now.
They will?
Mhm. So the nice thing, and thank you, Dr. Siebert and everyone else, Mrs. Green, for working on this. So I think it's definitely a much needed, we're in a place, they changed some stuff with funding. Before we had barriers with transportation, we could not have anyone on pre-K ride transportation routes and have to get a separate bus.
Mhm.
That has changed. The grant funding has changed to where we can use that grant money now for salaries, before it wasn't. When we looked at, I guess it was 4 years ago, looked at it, we had to try to do everything through title. And we had, we were eligible for 24 students, and we'd only identified 7, so it was, it just wasn't,
Yeah.
it just wasn't the right time. And right now, it's, we're in the right time, so whether we fund it through our interlocal funds, we have the
Let's
ability
use
to
the
do
grant as
so.
long as we
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
So we're in a good place to definitely let this be a feasible option for next year.
So I anticipate this coming back to your agenda next month for some sort of vote, so definitely think it over.
I'm ready to vote now.
I'm good with that.
The only unfortunate on the agenda, there's not an asterisk.
No, but in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
But,
We'd be glad to help.
Yeah, if you have additional questions or things you'd like. Hey, Dr. Siebert.
Yes,
Thank
thank you
you.
for doing that. That
Thank you.
was very good.
All right, next up we have